Days with My Stepsister, episode number 3. What a fascinating episode. What a fascinating just way to depict kind of the story. And, as I was watching it and as I completed the episode, I was really thinking to myself, I was like, what's so alluring or charming about this show? And, I think I landed on the fact that what we're watching, I really think is art, and I think we can all agree. I think if you and I were to have a conversation, I think we can agree that anime for sure is an art form, right? Like, I mean, from the way that characters are depicted to the way that they're shown on screen, the way that they are, their movement, sometimes the sakuga. I think we can all agree that anime is 100% art, but it doesn't always feel that way. A lot of times it just feels like you're watching just a show. But every so often you'll come across a show that just kind of strays from the norm, even in the genre that it ends up being in. And I think that is really what we're witnessing here. Is I really think that this is like a very intentional like piece of art as is trying to kind of really tell us this story about these two kids who are going, on the greater scale of the world. If you were to put your problems out there, to the world and you compare yourself to, 7 billion people, your problems are probably very low on the actual problem scale. But like I've talked in the past couple of episodes, when you're a teenager, especially, like you feel like when you have a problem or when you have something that you're going through, you feel like it's the most traumatic thing in your life. And on the reality scale, it might not be the case, but to you, especially when you're younger and you're figuring life out, like it can really feel like your whole world is crumbling in a way. And I really feel like that's kind of what we're seeing here. And I like how we finally got some context behind these two individuals. Essentially, we have Ayase, right? We have Ayase who we kind of found out more about her problem. Now, the one thing that we haven't really found out is, has she attempted to sell her body before to outside individuals? Or was she just kind of in the moment here with Yuuta? Was she just kind of playing into that, just specifically for him? That kind of remains to be seen. But essentially, we kind of found out some of her trauma. And some of her trauma is based on daddy issues, essentially. But dad at some point decided to leave her mom and did it in a very, very dirty way. And she was privy, or I guess she, Saki basically witnessed the volatility of divorce and separation, but also the volatility of her father, for whatever reason, being very vindictive towards her mom and being very, like, putting her mom down quite a bit, basically saying that her mom's only good to do nightlife work and stuff like that. Which, again, on the grand scale of reality, again, you can't really expect children, because that's what these are. Yeah, at the end of the day, they're children still. You can't really expect children to really understand or grasp that that's not the case, that really it's just dad being a vindictive piece of shit. Because, one of the things that Saki said here was like, oh, because my mom doesn't have or she only finished high school or whatever, like she doesn't have any additional, skills or anything like that can all get thrown out the window. That's not the case at all. You don't need to, like, you can find work once you become an adult. Experience and skills matter a lot more than college or university education and stuff like that. Like you can find work and you can work your way through any workplace. It doesn't necessarily have to be nightlife work. Now, her mom may enjoy bartending. I think that's what she's doing now, is bartending. She may enjoy bartending. She may enjoy that type of pacing of work. And hey, if she feels like that's something that she's good at, her mom is intentionally making the choice to do that type of work. She can go find a 9-to-5 office job and probably make similar money to being a bartender and kind of start off there. She could totally do that. So one of the things I found out is, like, this is very much coming from a place of non-understanding when it comes to kids, is because, like, she's just projecting what was told to her, and that kind of took a big toll on her. So essentially, Saki, a lot of her problems was kind of seeing what her mom has to go through. And because a lot of that was being projected, she kind of felt that on a personal level, and that's kind of affected her way she looks at the world. That's affected the way that she's looked at, that she looks at men. That's affected, her ability to speak to others. Like, it just totally makes sense on why she's kind of a depresso kid. On the other side of it, we found out that Asamura, or Yuuta, has a very similar thing. Again, his was very much through his father, but his father went through a pretty nasty divorce too, it seems. So it looks like both of their other parents aren't dead. They're just out of the picture. And essentially, mom cheated on dad, and that's what ended up happening. And you can kind of tell when you look at Utah's dad, he's very... he seems like a submissive type, which isn't bad by any means, by the way. I think that, there's somebody out there for everybody, and never change kind of who you are. Instead, find somebody who complements who you are, if that makes sense. Just because his dad seems submissive doesn't mean that that's like a dig on the dad's character. It just means that that's the type of person that he is. So he needs to find somebody who is complementary to that. So if he's very submissive, he needs to find somebody who's a little more dominant, in that sense. And that's probably what he found with Saki. She seems very outgoing and very extroverted. His dad seems very genuine, but very submissive and introverted. So it's kind of like you find these two complementary things. And that's kind of how it happens with a lot of people. It's how it happens in my relationship. You know what I mean? Like, it happens where usually you have two opposites that attract. And that seems to always be the case. Maybe not on when you're looking, from outside looking in, but when you're actually in, it's always usually opposites kind of thing. So anyways, dad got cheated on, and that really took a toll on dad and everything else. And essentially we found out that dad got this, I guess a diagnosis, you could say, called genophobia, and that kind of extended out to Yuuta as well, too. Again, the reason it extended out to him was because the experiences that his dad went through, it kind of messed him up as well, too, having to go through with his mom. And essentially, genophobia is irrational. It's an irrational fear of women. So obviously, it took dad a long time to get over that. It's a social phobia. It's essentially just something that a psychiatrist will kind of like give somebody as a as like a symptom, or they'll say that, okay, this is what you're suffering from. This phobia is what you're suffering from. So very interesting stuff. And essentially that's kind of driven Utah's personality, as he's, not opposed to as dad is, and dad's finally overcome that, because obviously he has a part-time job. He seems to do really well. He just doesn't seek it out. But, that kind of actions have affected him as well, too. So we kind of got to see these two people, and we got to see the context behind it. And then I kind of ended with the last thoughts of, it looks like when it comes to, where this romance genre tick is going to come from, it looks like that's going to come from Saki first. It looks like she's definitely catching feelings. I mean, she obviously went into Yuta's room ready and willing. And, thankfully, Yuuta is pretty much like, not this way, not this way. He's very much looking for, he's trying to make it work in a very platonic way. Obviously, she'll probably end up cracking those walls as it continues to move on, and she begins to realize that she is feeling love. And we'll see on how Yuuta ends up reciprocating or not reciprocating that as the show goes on. But I think what we're watching here is art, and I'm really enjoying watching it. And it definitely isn't from a place where I can really say I've experienced things similar, but I enjoy when the shows show me something that I don't have any skin in the game, but they can kind of show me on how the characters are feeling and why, and I can kind of sympathize and empathize with that. And I think that's what we're experiencing here. But let me know your guys' thoughts. I definitely understand this show's not for everybody. This show is definitely, it either suits your palate, it suits your taste, or it doesn't. There's really no in between. So let me know how you guys are feeling 3 episodes in. This would be the final episode to make a decision for most people out there. So let me know what you're thinking. All right, my friends. Peace out.